Respected dignitaries on the stage and my fellow anesthesia colleagues, my presentation is titled as Secondary Income Generation, Financial Independence. Definitely our primary income generation is from our anesthesia practice. But as we accumulate the financial assets in our investment journey, it may be possible that these financial assets may supplement our expenses. And if this investment journey is vigorously pursued, and if financial assets are accumulated in a significant manner, then a stage can definitely be reached when a sustainable 3% withdrawal from this financial corpus can actually substitute to the fullest, that is up to 100%, all our livelihood and lifestyle expenses. This is a stage of financial independence. This is a stage of secondary income generation. And it definitely reduces the stress associated with our primary income generation, that is our anesthesia practice. Details about me. I write on my blog rk@gajjar.wordpress.com. I usually write about personal finance, financial planning, retirement planning, and financial independence. I start my presentation with the words of J.L. Collins about financial independence. He states, understanding money is critical. If you choose to master it, money becomes a wonderful servant. If you do not, it will surely master you. Money can buy many things, none of which is more important than your financial independence. Dear colleagues, if a question is asked whether money can buy happiness or not, the answer may be complex and confusing. But if a question is asked whether money can buy financial independence or not, the answer is crystal clear and it is definitively yes. Let me first clear the mega myths with anesthesia doctors about personal finance. I am a professional anesthesia doctor, so I know personal finance well. Dear colleagues, this is a big myth. We have learned anesthesia, we have not learned personal finance. It is definitely a different knowledge domain and we need to learn it. Another is, I can manage the personal finance by outsourcing to anyone. Dear colleagues, becoming financially independent is a job which can never be outsourced, simply because all the intermediaries involved in the personal finance, they do have their own interest to serve first rather than making us financially independent. I'll answer 3 questions in my presentation. What is financial independence? How to achieve it? The answer will be in the form of general guidelines, in the form of certain do's and certain do nots. I'll also define when a person is identified as financially independent. I'll also emphasize the importance of financial independence with a 1-minute short video of Shiv Khera and 2 quotes by Personal Finance by Warren Buffett. Financial independence is to accumulate the adequate enough corpus, which is invested across the asset classes, but mainly in the financial assets. And these financial assets grow at a sufficient rate of 9 to 10% per annum. And these financial assets permit a withdrawal at a sustainable rate of 3% per annum. And this withdrawal amount is good enough to support one's livelihood and lifestyle expenses adjusted for inflation year on year for the lifetime. This is a stage of secondary income generation, a stage of financial independence. Dear colleagues, mark the keywords. Definitely a sufficient rate of 9 to 10% per annum on the financial assets is important. But more important, more crucial is to accumulate the adequate enough corpus and to restrict the withdrawal at a sustainable rate of 3% per annum. So larger and bigger the corpus, better the withdrawal at a rate of sustainable 3% per annum and better the quality of life. Compulsion to work is gone and choice to work is on. Now, second question, how to achieve it? First, I'll focus about the do nots because one does not have to do so many right things so far as one avoids doing a few wrong things. First, do not avoid the equity investments in totality. It can be in 2 forms, direct through the demat holdings into the direct equity markets, or it can be indirect through the mutual funds into the equity mutual funds. Do not depend only on the fixed income products like bank FD. They will never make you financially independent. Henceforth, in my discussion about the do nots, I'll focus mainly about the loans management. Because in the early years of our career, we usually buy the assets like house, car, and equipments only on the loans. And if these loans are not managed properly, the heavy burden of EMI associated with this loans management definitely reduces the surplus amount that we can invest for our goal of financial independence. So, dear colleagues, Be extremely prudent managing your loans in early your career. The rules are: do not opt for any type of loan if one is not prepared to put forward 20% as down payment. Another is, do not exceed the 36% of monthly income for the overall limit for all EMI and all loan payments. The house. In early years of career, the cost of the house that you go for should be restricted to 30 months of your monthly earnings. Say you are earning 2 lakhs rupees a month, the cost of the house should be around 60 lakhs rupees. And here also, you should be able to pay 20%, that is 12 lakhs as a down payment and only 48 lakhs from the loan. For car, do not bypass the 20 by 4 by 10% rule for the car loan. 20% down payment capacity, 4 years is the loan tenure, and 10% means car loan EMI plus fuel plus insurance plus maintenance expenses all coupled together should not exceed 10% of your annual income. Say your annual income is 20 lakh rupees, car related expenses totally should be up to 2 lakhs rupees. The most important do not is, dear colleagues, in early years of career, please do not develop the income tax evasion mentality. I do recommend that you explore, you exploit, and you exhaust all the legal and possible means to save the taxes as much as possible. But once the tax amount is fixed, please do pay the tax, because financial independence demand financial assets, and financial assets demand accounted funds. Unaccounted funds will never help you reach the stage of financial independence. So, in early years of career, do not develop the income tax evasion mentality. Do create the accounted funds and start your journey to the financial independence. This completes the list of do nots. Now, do's next. Out of your monthly earnings, pay yourself first in the following proportion. Say you are earning 100 rupees a month, 16 rupees for the retirement funds or financial independence, 14 rupees for the kids' education and marriage, 10 rupees for the assets. We need to accumulate the down payment for house and car, or we need to accumulate the assets like white goods, like laptops, like smart TVs, like ACs. Then we need to enjoy the life also. So 10 rupees for the experiences like parties, picnics, trips and tours, domestic and international. This totals up to 50 rupees. So rest of the 50 rupees are for all expenses, including the EMI. In other words, say you are spending 50 rupees, see to it that you earn 100 rupees, and say you are earning 100 rupees, see to it that your expenses are restricted to 50 rupees. This basic financial discipline is extremely important. Without this basic financial discipline, financial independence is extremely difficult. Emergency funds, pure term life insurance, health insurance, and general insurance, including personal accident insurance, is first and must. Now, do's in the detail. Start as early as possible, even though if it is a small amount, and always aim to raise the investment amount year on year, maybe 5%, 10%, 15%, whatever is possible. Dear colleagues, it is not the corpus, but it is the consistency with which you continue your investment journey. And it is the consistency with which you increase the investment amount year on year, which is more important. Focus on the consistency rather than the corpus. Grade are the asset classes: G for gold, R for real estate, E for equity, and D for debt. Before I proceed discussions about the assets, let me emphasize two most important concepts in financial independence. They are goal-based investing. Whatever investment you do, whenever you do, it must have a clear goal, clear purpose attached to it. It may be financial independence, skills, assets, or experiences. And according to the goal, its assets allocation strategy should be fixed. And overall also, you should have a clearly defined assets allocation strategy. It can be 50% equity, 50% debt, or 70% equity, or 30% debt. Let me add a clarification here. I address the asset classes as equity and debt, but debt assets are very much tax unfriendly nowadays. So I recommend to replace them with the least volatile and most stable equity assets, as they permit the efficient rebalancing and they are more tax friendly. So henceforth in my discussion about the assets, I'll address them as volatile equity assets and stable equity assets instead of equity and debt. Gold, the first asset class. So far, the sovereign gold bond was the best option. Its future is uncertain. So next best is the gold exchange traded fund or gold funds. Do restrict your gold asset allocation to 5 to 10% of your overall assets because it is more for hedging or stability of the portfolio rather than as a wealth generation measure. Next asset class is the real estate as investment. I recommend to avoid the real estate as investment till you accumulate significant and sizable financial assets in the volatile and stable equity assets. And as and when you go for the real estate as investment, do appreciate very well all the drawbacks of the real estate as investment asset. They are namely, it is always a huge or a big ticket expense. There is poor liquidity. There is no divisibility of the investment. If it is an open land, then there are issues of land encroachment or litigations. If it is a structure like a house or a flat, then there are issues of tenancy, occupancy, maintenance, and municipal taxes. Dear colleagues, avoid being real estate assets rich and liquidity or cash poor because financial independence demand significant and sizable financial liquidity. About residential house, it is definitely not a real estate investment. At the most, it is a consumption pseudo asset. Whatever way you look at real estate, but see to it that you restrict your real estate investment to 10 to 20% of your overall portfolio. Now, the volatile equity assets, they are must, even in retired years. Even in that age, also, it has to be minimum 40%. And in young age, when your risk-taking capacity is the maximum, then also the maximum limit is 70%. I recommend 60% equity in volatile equity assets and 40% in stable equity assets. There are a number of mutual fund houses, number of mutual fund categories, and number of schemes. But you need to focus only on 3 types of categories. That is index funds, aggressive hybrid funds, and flexi cap funds. These 3 categories is more than enough for you to invest your entire lifetime's earnings and lifetime's corpus. More important is the rebalancing at the market tops and the bottoms when the assets allocation strategy is significantly altered. Let us understand with an example. Say we start with 50 volatile and 50 stable. Markets are volatile. Volatile assets may go up to 80%. This is a stage where you must book the profits from the volatile equity assets and bring the profits into the stable equity assets and bring back the proportion to 50-50%. It may happen otherwise also. Markets are volatile. The volatile equity assets may drop to 25% or 30%. This is the time that you must redeem your stable equity assets and bring the proceeds into the volatile equity assets and again raise the proportion back to the 50-50%. This is our attempt to book the notional gains to the real gains and not to miss the opportunity to buy at the bottoms of the equity markets. Stable equity assets, it should be minimum 30 to 40% and maximum up to 50%. As I said earlier, debt funds are tax unfriendly. So equity savings category with the debt products features and favorable equity tax benefits is the choice. To conclude my discussion about the assets, dear colleagues, it is not the investment assets, it is type or its categories, which is more important, but it is the efficient rebalancing between the volatile and the stable equity assets, which will help you reach your stage of financial independence rather than the nature or category of the investment assets. Efficient rebalancing is the key word. Now, the third question, when a person is defined as financially independent, I'll answer these questions for 2 extremes of age 30 and age 60. I'll answer this question in the multiples of monthly expenses because in personal finance, it is the figure of the monthly expenses which is most important, foundation, crucial for all inputs, all calculations, all formulas, all projections, and all outputs. So a person who is aged 30, who has yet all milestones to fulfill in his life, say he has yet to buy a house, yet to buy a car, yet to go for the kids' education and marriage, yet to buy the assets, yet to enjoy the life, he needs 1,032 times his monthly expenses plus his all outstanding liabilities as on date to be identified as financially independent as on date. Say he is spending 1 lakh rupees a month. So he needs 10.32 CR plus outstanding liabilities as on date to be identified as financially independent as on date. For another age is 60. Naturally, the liabilities will be 0. Kids are educated, married, assets are purchased, life is enjoyed. So he needs 522 times his monthly expenses. Again, say he's spending 1 lakh rupees a month, he needs 5.22 CR to be defined as financially independent. Now, there may be a question or a confusion in your minds. How do I derive this figure of 1032 and 522? Dear colleagues, I have written 2 articles on my website, rk@gajjar.wordpress.com. The first is how much wealth is enough part 1 and another is how much wealth is enough part 2. In these 2 blocks, I have explained in a scientific manner, as per the personal finance based logics and reasoning, how these figures of 1032 and 522 are derived. To explain the same, I need a lot of time. So, dear colleagues, do visit the blog, do read the articles, and do appreciate the scientific logic and reasoning behind these figures 1032 and 522. Not only that, I have also attached an Excel sheet to my another article, that is how much wealth is in a part 2. You can download this Excel sheet and you need to input only 3 figures, that is your age, your monthly expenses, and your all outstanding liabilities as on date. And it will easily and automatically calculate the financial independence corpus for your age, for your expenses, for your liabilities. So do visit the blog and do get benefited. To end my presentation, dear colleagues, forget about your anesthesia colleagues, forget about your surgeon colleagues, forget about your close family members. You cannot change anybody. What you can change the best is your own self. And dear colleagues, believe me, to change ourselves is the most important and most appropriate job to do in our lifetimes. And change is not a chance, it is a choice. So today, make a choice to be financially independent. How to become financially independent will be answered by others also in the form of direct equity. But first, be absolutely convinced why financial independence is required. Because once why is crystal clear, how becomes very, very easy. Let us understand the significance of financial independence from the words of Shiv Khera.
Many times when we do our programs, we do talk about financial independence. And people come up and say, Mr. Kira, money is not important. And besides, money can't get you happiness. And besides, money is the root of all evils. Well, let's take one at a time. Who are the people who say money is not important? In my opinion, either they're stupid or they're billionaires. Look, I didn't say money is the most important thing, but money is very important because I learned one thing in my life that money in good hands always does good, and money in evil hands always does evil. Now, let's look at the second part. You said money does not get you happiness. Well, let me ask you, does poverty get you happiness? Well, if I have to be unhappy, I would rather be unhappy with money than without money. Now, let's talk of, you said money is the root of all evils. Well, I don't think so. Money is only a medium of exchange. Money is a reward you give me when I provide you with goods and services. Now, the more goods and services I provide you, the more you reward me with money. What's wrong with that? Folks, money is wonderful.
So to earn the money with value and ethics is definitely spiritual. We must earn as much as possible and we should be financially independent as early as possible. The first quote by Warren Buffett, he says, money is not everything, but make sure you earn a lot before speaking such nonsense. So before we say money is not important, let us be financially independent. He also says, if you do not find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. Dear colleagues, let us be financially independent and let our money work for us and let us enjoy the golden years of our life. My take home message is, dear colleagues, do not discard that financial independence is a dream. It can be a deed done also, that is, it can be a reality also. But for that, you need to follow a SOP, that is standard operating protocols. First, you need to apply a date to your dream. Then it becomes a goal. Decide that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 25 years from now, I'll be financially independent. Divide your goal into multiple timelines, multiple milestones. Say at 10 years, I'll be at this stage, at 20 years at this stage, 25 years, I'll be financially independent. This is a plan. But plan needs to be coupled with concrete action. When plan is supported with a concrete action, it becomes a strategy. And this strategy is to be followed consistently over a number of years, maybe decades. Then it becomes a work in progress. And when this work in progress is persistently pursued with immense patience, it becomes a deed done that is a reality, and that reality is a financial independence. Dear colleague, to be financially independent, you need to develop a three-dimensional mindset. The first D is for the determination, second D is for the discipline, and third D is for the dedication. Definitely becoming financially independent is a difficult job, but at the same time, it is really realizable as well. I thank you all to one and all. I repeat my blog address rkgajjar.wordpress.com. Let me make one issue very clear. This is a 3 GB free space from WordPress to me and to all those who want to write. I do not pay a single rupee, nor do I earn a single rupee out of this website. It is purely for my own personal pleasure that I write on my blog. But if in any way my efforts can be helpful to you all in your journey to financial independence, it will be a matter of extreme pleasure for me. Let me end my presentation with my sincerest prayers to Lord Swaminarayan that all of us may become financially independent as early as possible. And all those who are already financially independent, they may remain so throughout their lifetimes. All the best to your journey to financial independence. This completes my presentation. Thank you.